tonight out of the same devotion book that we read out of last time, which is the Jesus Storybook Bible. But first, we're going to sing the song. Well, the devotion is going to be about the story of Joseph in the Bible, and it's a beautiful story, of course, from God's Word that speaks not only of how God overrules our great sins and errors and failures for His good, for His glory and our good. Here, you don't need to come over here. But it also is a story of course, Joseph points us to Jesus, our great rescuer, deliverer, and the Jesus Storybook Bible does a wonderful job of pointing to that. But in order to think about that theme together, we're going to sing together, God Moves in a Mysterious Way. So if you want to Google that or pull out a hymn book or something, God Moves in a Mysterious Way is a beautiful hymn. And I wanted to, I was looking over it thinking, well, there's 6 verses, and so there's no way we can sing all of those. But then I could not decide a single verse to get rid of because they're all so good. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to sing the first 3 verses, and then we'll read not all at once. So God Moves in a Mysterious Way. If you don't know the story of this hymn, William Cowper was the British hymn writer who wrote this hymn, experienced deep depression throughout his life, to the point where at times he was even friends had concerns about his mental health. He really had a lot of challenges. I believe he was close friends with John Newton, the author of Amazing Grace. But William Cowper, though experiencing all these deep sorrows, also clung to grace through it all and trusted that God was somehow working all this for his good and for God's glory. And so this song has beautiful lyrics, but the reason the lyrics are so beautiful is because they come out of real pain just as great as any of us have experienced. And so I hope these words minister to you. Okay.
God moves in a mysterious way, His wonders to perform. He plants His footsteps in the sea and rides upon the storm. Deep in unfathomable minds of never failing skill, He treasures up His bright designs and works His sovereign will. Ye fearful saints, fresh courage take. The clouds you so much dread are big with mercy and will break with blessings on your head.
Good singing. Oh wow, if you're going through a time of difficulty, just get out or Google or whatever this hymn and its lyrics. But listen to this, what we just sang. Ye fearful saints, fresh courage take. The clouds you so much dread are big with mercy and will break in blessings on your head. There's just one beautiful truth expressed in that hymn after another. And now I'm looking for my devotion book. All right, here we go. So this is the story of Joseph, and from Genesis 37 through 46. It's called The Forgiving Prince. Now remember that the Jesus Storybook Bible is always pointing you to the bigger story of Jesus and who He is. And so when it titles this "The Forgiving Prince," who do you think that this is really ultimately pointing us to? Who does Joseph being a forgiving prince? Who does that point us to? Who does that remind us of in the New Testament?
My beginner's Bible.
It reminds you of the Beginner's Bible. That's good. Does it? But who specifically does that remind you of? Anybody? A prince who forgives in the New Testament. Can you remember who?
Oh, Jesus.
Jesus. That's exactly right. Jesus is a prince who also forgives people who have done him wrong. So this is a beautiful story. So here's, first of all, you can see the picture of Joseph and his many-colored coat. And Jacob had 12 sons, but of all his sons, Joseph was his favorite. Is it right to have favorites? No, but that's a different story. One day, Jacob gave Joseph a splendid new robe. It was beautiful and rich with all the colors of the rainbow, but it made Joseph's brothers jealous. They wanted rich rainbow robes too. Then, to make matters worse, Joseph kept on having these special dreams. I dreamed I was the greatest. I dreamed I was king, Joseph told his brothers, and all of you bowed down to me. Now, I'm sure you know that even if Joseph didn't, that telling your brothers things like that isn't a very good idea. So don't tell Ransom that you had dreams of him bowing down to you, okay? Joseph's brothers hated him even more. They wanted to kill Joseph and his dreams, and one day that's exactly what they tried to do. They tore Joseph's rainbow robe off of him, sold him to slave traders for how much money? Can you guess? How much money did they...
That's sad.
How much money did
Sad.
they...
It's sad.
It is sad. They sold him, their brother. How much money did they sell Joseph for?
20 pieces of silver.
Yes, 20 pieces of
20,
silver.
that's a lot.
And we'll come back to
Not
that.
enough for a person.
No, it's not enough for a person, but it is a lot of silver. You're right. The traders took Joseph to Egypt and made him into a slave. Look at that. He had a colorful coat, and then instead, all of a sudden, he was in jail. They made him into a slave. The brothers went home and lied to their father, telling him that Joseph was dead. That's the end of that dreamer, they thought. But they were wrong. God had a magnificent dream for Joseph's life, and even when it looked like everything had gone wrong, God would use it all to help the dream come true. God would use everything that was happening to Joseph to do something good. It's amazing that God can do that. He can take everything bad that's happening in our lives and use it to do something good when we just trust in Him and rely on Him. Meanwhile, though, things were not looking good for Joseph in Egypt. He was far from home and from his dad. He got blamed for something he didn't do. Even though he had done nothing wrong, he was punished and thrown in jail, but God had not left Joseph. One night, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, had a scary dream about thin cows gobbling up fat cows. That does sound like a scary dream. Have you ever actually thought about that dream? It does sound like a scary dream. Like if you had that dream and there were like thin cows gobbling up fat cows, it would be kind of like, this is an uncomfortable nightmare. What on earth did it mean? He sent for him. It means a famine is coming. There won't be enough food. Pharaoh was so pleased by Joseph's skill that he immediately took Joseph out of jail and made him a prince. Now, back home, Joseph's brothers had run out of food and everyone was hungry. God's special family was in danger. If they didn't get food, they would starve to death. So Joseph's brothers traveled to Egypt to buy food. They came and knelt before the new prince. His brothers didn't know that the prince was Joseph, but Joseph knew who they were. Joseph's dream, the one about his brothers bowing down to him, was coming true. "It's me," Joseph cried. And when they saw it was Joseph, his brothers were afraid. They'd wronged Joseph. They knew they had. They'd sinned, and they knew it. Now Joseph would certainly punish them. But Joseph looked at his brothers, and his eyes filled with tears. Even though his brothers had hurt him and hated him and wanted him dead, in spite of everything, he couldn't stop loving them. His heart, which they had broken, filled up with love, and Joseph forgave them. Joseph threw his arms around them. "Don't be afraid. Behind what you are doing, underneath everything that was happening, God was doing something good. God was making everything right again." Joseph didn't punish them. He rescued them. That's amazing. That's two opposite ends. Instead of punishing them, he rescued them. And so he brought God's special family to live safely with him in Egypt. But one day later, God would send another prince, a young prince whose heart would also break. Like Joseph, he would leave his home and his father. His brothers would hate him and want him dead. He would be sold for pieces of silver. He would be punished even though he had done nothing wrong. But God would use everything that happened to this young prince, even the bad things, to do something good, to forgive the sins of the whole world. Isn't that amazing? So in the story of Joseph, which as amazing as the story of Joseph is, that this man who is sent to prison and betrayed by his brothers, that somehow God turns all that to their salvation and their rescue, even then, that, as amazing as that story is, it's just a little fraction, a little pointer to the great story of what Jesus did for us on the cross, even though we hated him and betrayed him and put him to death. So now we're going to sing the last 3 verses of God Moves in a Mysterious Way in order to think further about this reality that even when things seem so dark, and maybe for you right now, with the quarantine going on and challenges, maybe financial challenges and other things, there may be things going on in your family that you can't imagine. You can't imagine how this could be good. Can you imagine Joseph sitting in jail after having been sold into slavery? Now he's in jail for being falsely accused. There's no way he could imagine, hey, God is doing this because he's going to rescue my family. No way. He could not possibly have known. But God was doing better than he could possibly imagine. And that's what he's doing in everyone's life in beautiful ways, even in our suffering, even in our challenges, and even in our failures. So here we go in the last 3 verses of God Moves in a Mysterious Way. Judge not the Lord by feeble sense, but trust him for his grace. Behind a frowning providence, he hides a smiling face. His purposes will ripen fast, unfolding every hour. The bud may have a bitter taste, but sweet will be the flower. Blind unbelief is sure to err and scan his works in vain. God is his own interpreter, and he will make it plain.
Do you want to sing Jehovah Jireh? It's a fun one.
Sure, that's a fun one.
You guys know
Jehovah
that one? I do. Okay.
Jehovah Jireh is, let
That's a
me
fun one.
explain what it means. Jehovah Jireh is a song. This is for you kids, by the way. This will be fun. You'll learn it, and you'll probably never forget it. But Jehovah Jireh means the Lord will provide. It's what Abraham said to his son Isaac when they were going up the hill and to sacrifice Isaac. And Isaac said, "Where is the lamb? Where's the sacrifice?" And Abraham said, "The Lord will provide." Jehovah Jireh. And that's exactly what happened, of course. The Lord provided a ram to take the place of Isaac, just like the Lord provides Jesus to take our place on the cross. So Jehovah Jireh. Okay, ready? And so what we do is we start off real slow, and then we go as fast as we possibly can until we can't go any faster, or we break down in giggles, one or the other. All right, ready? Jehovah Jireh, my provider, his grace is sufficient for me,
Jireh, my provider, His grace is sufficient for me. The Lord shall supply all my needs, according to His riches and glory. He shall send His angels to watch over me. Jehovah Jireh cares for me, for me, for me. Jehovah Jireh cares for me. Jehovah Jireh, my provider, His grace is sufficient for me, for me, for me. Jehovah Jireh, my provider, His grace is sufficient for me. The Lord shall supply all my needs, according to His riches and glory. He shall send His angels to watch over me. Jehovah Jireh cares for me, for me, for me. Jehovah Jireh cares for me. Ready? Are you ready? We're going to go really fast now. Ready? Jehovah Jireh, my provider, His grace is sufficient for me, for me, for me. Jehovah Jireh, my provider, His grace is sufficient for me. The Lord shall supply all my needs, according to His riches and glory. He shall send His angels to watch over me. Jehovah Jireh cares for me, for me, for me. Jehovah Jireh cares for me. Okay, that's as fast as I can go.
even faster.
Oh, you did.
Okay.
Mama can't.
All right, you guys, you try.
Jehovah Jireh, my provider, His grace is sufficient for me, for me.
Okay, all right. Too much pressure. Too much pressure. But hopefully you can learn that. If you just are cluing in, you probably thought there was a glitch in our broadcast for that last version. It was too fast, but that's a fun song to sing together with the kids, and it teaches them that God does provide. Even when we can't see how He's going to provide, He always provides. So don't forget that this week. No matter what it is that's going on in your life, you may not be able to see how He's going to provide, but God always provides for those who are His people, those who are trusting in Jesus Christ. God bless you.
And keep you.
And keep you. There you go.